Hello everybody and welcome to Organian's Puzzle Box. In this video I wanted to go through a few questions from users, and these questions can come from anybody. I get them from YouTube, I get them from Discord, I get them from different sources, and what I want to do is I want to create regularly a video in which I try to answer those questions based on my personal experience. And the type of the video, I like to call it questions that puzzles us 3D artists. Or, is that a good title? I think it's a good title. I'm using puzzle from the puzzle box, right? Anyway, so if you have any questions, if you have any things that you want to know when it comes to things related to 3D or related to the marketplace, related to how to make your own to how to become a freelancer, how to land a job, and so on, just feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Leave the comment with your question, and you might be featured in the next video. I'll try and do every question, basically that doesn't repeat itself. Some questions will require multiple answers, I guess, but some are probably going to be made redundant quite quickly. Like, for example, how do I make money on, with Unreal? I'll have a few answers on that, but there's it's probably a finite amount of information that I can provide on it at some point. But yeah, let's not waste any more time, and let's begin the video. Okay, let's begin. So I finally found a use for my good old Surface Pro. I think this is the 6th one. Right, so let's just have a look at some of the questions that you guys had. And we were talking about things like, what would you like to know in terms of, questions that puzzle us. And I want to start this as a sort of a series. So I'm going to do a few questions at a time. And this is basically questions that puzzle us as a 3D artist. Now, I don't want to go into, information that might just be redundant, or pretty much information that, you could probably easily find out there. I'm just going to use my own perspective and tell you what I think, the answer to some of the questions that you guys have might be. And I have in here a couple of questions that I'm going to read out, and then we'll go through some of them based on my, experience, perspective, whatever you want to call it, right? So the first question comes from King Engine, and he asked this on Discord, I believe. So he says this is a nice idea for a video series, which, okay, thank you. Now he's saying, I am currently interested in exactly the topic of how to make money as a 3D artist. And so he's really interested in I'm assuming freelancing. He could be talking about a job, but let's just assume that he says freelancing, which is something that I do. So let me just give you my take on this. Now, the 3D and artist life is not easy, because you've got to basically find something that represents you, something that you like to do, and a lot of us people, we get into this because we have certain passion projects, and some of us want to actually make it into a career, and the ones who do want to make it into a career generally end up in these situations where they go to to a university of some kind, to a school where they teach you things, what to do in 3D, how to use software, and so on. But generally, you're trying to find the, a direction within those universities. You're trying to find a good way of learning the skills that you'll use in the, a company that you're going to work into. Maybe you want to work for Blizzard, for example, so you'll look at whatever sort of software they're probably prioritizing based on, the job advertising that they're doing. So you're gonna, let's say it's, it's their proprietary engine, but they usually maybe use, I don't know, Maya or something like that to model their 3D model. So you're going to go to something that might have that. But depending on where you live in the world, you might not have access to any of that. For example, the country that I originate from, there is no such thing around the area that I live. There was no way for me to learn this. So I had to sort of, pretty much go down the self-taught route. Now, at the inception of this idea, I wasn't considering that I was going to make any money with it. I just wanted to create things that I can enjoy for myself and my friends. So my first interaction with 3D, or not 3D, but more like creating content, of some sorts to be used in a video game environment was to create Warcraft 3 maps. So I used to make custom maps with all sorts of things, like even like custom models and textures and all sorts of things that I would inject within the game using its editor. And that was my first sort of brush up with this world. So from that point, it just sort of sparked a bigger interest in me to continue pursuing this, and I've started learning 3ds Max. I've then realized that 3ds Max felt quite difficult to master because it just had so many things in it that weren't really useful to me, but they were getting in the way of for me to achieve the best results that I could. 3ds Max is great, but it's not very user friendly, and the interface at the time when I was using it was a total disaster, and even right now it's not amazing. Like, a lot of people would just get completely confused. And at some point I started looking at Blender right around the point where 2.8 came out, and I was actually baffled by how much easier it was for me to achieve the same stuff in Blender as I did in 3ds Max. Now, don't get me wrong, I feel like 3ds Max was better results were coming out of it, but Blender was far easier for me, far more approachable for me to be able to use it. And I'm sure earlier versions were pretty bad in that respect, but 2.8 was a transformational thing, I think. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. So how do you make money? Now, the reason why I brought up the whole idea of how you're going to be making money by going to school and all that with softwares and so and get a career and learn how to use this, what I'm saying is, we live in the digital age. I don't think you need to go to any university or anything like that. I think the degree might help you in some way, but you definitely don't need that to learn anything. Most people are probably self-taught, or even the ones that have gone to school, they just lay the foundation, but then they sort of develop themselves as they went. And then when it comes to actually making money as a freelancer or working in a job, and trust me, you definitely want to start as a freelancer first and really try and build a portfolio with that, especially if you can land some projects where you get paid. Now, if you're good enough, you'll get paid straight away. If not, then you'll just have to build sort of a client base and make some work for free, learn things. Generally, when you have a set objective by a client, you'll find yourself in a position where you will have to learn more things. You will have to break them down. You will have to find workflows, look at tutorials and so on, but you have an end goal, which is very important, because a lot of times when you make your own passion project, you don't really have a set goal, which means you'll just be beating around the bush too much rather than focusing on time, efficiency, getting the job done and making it look good, right? Now, in terms of making money, you've got to look at what is your niche. Don't try and do something that everybody else does. And what I mean by this is, don't go and start making stylized environments if you're not good at it. Don't start learning how to make stylized environments so that you can make money with it, because unless you're really good, you probably won't, because there'll be hundreds out there who are already established and are already selling this, and you're just going to be one of those hundreds maybe, and you'll break a bit of the ceiling and you'll sell some products, but you won't really make enough to warrant that investment of time. Now, I'm not suggesting you for a second that you don't learn how to do stylized environments. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, don't expect to make money out of it, especially as a freelancer, because it is very difficult. I mean, if I look at my sort of approach here, I've tried for many years to find different things, and finally the space stuff really clicked. It's a good niche, but I wouldn't, already now there's more and more people appearing within that niche. I'm already established, so it's good for me. But there are other areas where people have been established for a long time. Look at the architectural stuff. If you go on TurboSquid, you will find accounts that have massive amounts of models, and you just won't be able to compete because they sell them at reasonable prices, or even very expensive prices. But because they're already established and they have really good really good topology, really good UV textures and so on, they will sell more than you, if you will even sell at all. But that's not to discourage you. I'm just trying to tell you to be realistic. First, do the research, you know, measure 3 times before cutting once, so to speak. That's what my dad used to say. So really look at what represents you. What sort of what do you like? Are you somebody who likes to make hard surfacing, or you know, making 3D models like characters and such, you know, sculpting them? Now here's an idea for a market for you. If you like to sculpt characters, then become very good very good at doing anatomy. So do proper anatomy before going into caricatures or anything like that. And then you can have a look at doing 3D printing of those models that you make. If your models are really good, then you could be doing, I don't know, superheroes as 3D models and sell them either as finished, 3D printed models, or sell the models to be 3D printed by others. That's a very, very lucrative market, especially if you look at things like, you know, people are collectors and they want things and they love to have spectacular work that they could then, as I said, 3D print and put on display. So that's very lucrative as an example. But you just got to do the research, and I know that's easy for me to say, and it took me years to really find it. But I think nowadays, rather than looking at YouTube videos about ideas of how to make money online, just look at what other people do. Do the research, go on the websites, go on ArtStation, go on other places where there's where indie or freelancers are posting work that they're selling, right? And have a look at what they're doing. Have they got the following? You know, one thing to sort of see is how many ratings have they got for those products, and if they, not a lot, but they have a lot of followers, but the portfolio doesn't show as if they would have those followers because of the portfolio. So the portfolios don't have a lot of views or likes, but yet they have a lot of followers, like in my case. Then why is that happening? And then that's when you sort of understand that on ArtStation, when you make a sale, you make a follower. Thus the number of followers increases from sales, not necessarily from people liking the artwork that particular creator has done. So really try and think outside the box. Look at what's the saturated market and what isn't. And if you think that you've then found a market that is untapped, also try and see if anybody's really looking for that kind of stuff. So maybe look at Google Trends and so on. Start looking at keywords. What do people search for? What's popular on YouTube? What type of videos are people consuming? Because, for example, I don't know, if Hogwarts Legacy, for example, is a very popular game, then maybe you need to make something within that niche, something that sort of fits that supposed market. And don't try to sell your products for too much of a price, too expensive, because again, you know, people who will buy the stuff are generally people who are freelancers or people who do not have a lot of money. They're just, you know, trying to make their own project, passion project. Generally they just don't have the money to fork out $200-300 for your product. So maybe go for something like below 50, below 20. I don't know. I try to keep my products around between $5 to $10, and I'm happy with that, even though they might be worth a lot more. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm trying to spread my projects. I'm not trying to limit how many people can have access to them. And I don't even care if they use them in their own projects and even sell them to somebody else. I don't really care. I care to share my product, make sure that it's out there, and make sure that people are enjoying it. Okay, let's continue with the questions. So we've got one from Riotech Animations, who is a very active user on my Discord server, so kudos to him. And he asks, apart from game development, in which area can Unreal Engine guys make money? Then he gives example, like in films. What are the standards we have to follow? And cover other fields if you know more. I am totally new, so like me, there are so many other people who want to know this answer. Now, what I would say is that Unreal Engine is now developing and moving on to loads of other people who did not have access to it in the past. And I'm not just talking because it's now free. It's not about that. I'm more like it's become a lot more accessible and has given people a creativity boost, because they can see what's possible with it. They can see that they can start making animations for movies and so on, for their own short sci-fi or whatever it is. And this market keeps growing. And Epic have done a fantastic job at bringing technologies within Unreal Engine that allows us to bypass a lot of the usual hurdles that you'd need as a sole developer to do something. So I'm not just talking about games here. I'm talking about even when you do, movies and so on. Nanite eliminates the need to have to necessarily optimize your assets as much. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. What I'm saying is you don't really need to as much anymore. And not everybody is a quad topology Andy, if I can call them that. Not everybody wants to be like that. Some people do just want to like get their mesh in the scene and start using it straight away. I know for some of you it might be difficult to contemplate that. The mesh doesn't have to be perfect all the time. Anyway, Lumen, same thing. Very, very powerful stuff. It gives such good GI that effectively speeds the process up so much. But what other avenues of making money? So yeah, I would say virtual production is a big one. I've had a lot of people who have contacted me to provide them with content for their music videos. So generally, music videos can be quite abstract, and you can do loads of abstract things in Unreal Engine. So yeah, a lot of people who were wanted to have a space scene of some kind in their music video have come to me to get some guidance, or for me to create a project for them and so on. So that's definitely a niche right there, music videos. You can have a look at commercials as well. Unreal Engine is really good now for rendering products, especially if you're using patch tracing. So you will need a ray tracing capable card, but patch tracing is really good for getting that extra oomph in your scenes, as if you're trying to do commercials and things like that. So I think that's a niche there as well. There's in terms of game development, although you said aside from game development, but you don't have to be a game developer to create things that can be used by game developers. So have a look at creating specialized shaders for different kind of things. Look outside the box, maybe look at Shader Toys, the website, and have a look there at what they do, because they, those guys get some fantastic results using a language, using a C++, or I can't remember now what type of language. Either way, it's a visual language that's being used on Shader Toys, but you can actually take that and you can convert it in Unreal Engine code, thus creating some interesting effects for people. So always look at tools that can help people to get the job done. Generally, things revolve around the audio video medium, and with Unreal Engine, video is the basic. It represents 80% of everything. 20% I would say is the rest of it, the sound and so on. But yeah, the visual medium is the most important. And if you create specialized tools to speed up the process of it, like I've told to somebody else, just create blueprints that allow people in virtual production to do things a lot faster. Maybe look at creating camera cinematic movements. So there are people who sell this on marketplace, but you can make your own for different kind of things. Again, people want to pay money to save time. Time is far more valuable than money. Okay, your time is far more valuable than any money in the world, but at the same time, you're going to be putting money in creating a tool that saves time for other people. So it's kind of round and round and goes, but that's kind of what you need to do. Find ways, unless you're building a product that you're going to sell like a game or your own movie and whatnot, then create things that create fantastic results for the end user and saves time, energy, resources for them. That's what they're looking for. That's what they want. That's what they pay you for. And you should know how to advertise yourself. Always put the best images, the best showcases of your work, because bad publicity or insufficient publicity or marketing of your product will lead to disaster. It doesn't matter how good it is, nobody will know if they're not actually using it, if they're not actually buying it, if they're not trialing it. Find different ways, offer a free sample. I don't know, whatever you do, you've got to be able to put it out there. And most importantly, the best advertiser for your work is yourself. So have a look at how you can do that. That's why I have a YouTube channel. That's why I do this, because I can advertise my own work. Okay, moving on to another question, and here we have one from Istiak Ahmed, and he's got actually 3 questions in sort of one, so we can do all 3. He says, how can I leverage AI to earn more? Or another thing is, give me some tips from the experience in selling 3D assets in marketplace. Like, should I create trendy 3D assets? And then, shall I create content, YouTube video or other, to get more clients or customers? Now, let's just start off with the with the leverage of AI to earn more. Now, for example, I pay for Midjourney, and I'm using it to create skybox textures that I then stitch together and create new skyboxes. The reason why I do this is not because I couldn't just generate those skyboxes in something like Blender. I already am selling packages or setups that can create nebulas in Blender. The only problem there is that whenever I do a render in Blender with any of these nebulas, it can take hours to get a proper render out, because we're talking about a lot of processing power that I've got to use to be able to get these fantastic looking nebulas, okay? So resolution, clarity, volume steps, very important stuff to get right, and it takes a lot of time to do it. So, Midjourney does it in a couple of seconds. I don't want to really go down the rabbit hole of what it's doing is wrong and so on. You guys need to sort of like wake up and live with it, right? AI is not something that you're going to stop. AI is going to improve everyone's lives in the end, right? It's going to create more opportunity than take away. It's just in human nature to oppose things, especially things that they don't really understand. And I'm not saying that I understand it. What I'm saying is it's a big, big leap forward for us if we get it done. If we get it going correctly. So regulated, used in such a way that it doesn't destroy markets but creates new ones. And I think it has. Now, to leverage AI. So that's what I'm doing with it. Other people are using it to print stuff on t-shirts. Look at this t-shirt. This t-shirt has an AI developed image that my wife did, and to put it out as a branding type of thing for the channel, which I greatly appreciated. I would say that market is probably very saturated, but at the same time, get creative. The AI in terms of images, it creates a visual in a visual medium, just like Unreal Engine, just like any other 3D software where you create CGI. It generates stuff in a 3D medium. You can create very interesting things with it. I like to go down the abstract route. I would suggest that you try and do the same. See what you can use it for. Create skyboxes or things like that with it. It's fantastic for it. Or create stuff that could be animated on billboards, and then just create environments out of that. Create the most interesting environments. I have seen a documentary type video from Melody Sheep where he clearly has had AI imagery woven within those renders to create impressive looking clouds, as an example. Okay. And I'm not, this is not me giving you other ideas. This is just me sort of approaching this from my point of view. You can use AI to upscale images and create different type of branded products. Not branded, but more like products with, mouse pads with your favorite type of character in a different sort of pose that he's never been seen before, or things like that. There's loads of things that you can sell with this. Now going forward, give me some tips from the experience in selling 3D assets in marketplace. Like, should I create trendy 3D assets? I don't know. In terms of trendy, I don't know what to say about that, because everything is trendy until it isn't anymore. Like, how are you going to ride that wave? How are you going to stay on top of it? Is your workflow so good that you are able to churn out content faster than it's being consumed by the people who actually need it or use it? And I don't know what to say. I don't know what you want to do with it, or what can you do with it. And then what decides trendy in itself? It means that you have to investigate and find answers to what is popular out there. Avatar came out recently. It's very popular. Should you make trendy assets or scenes that are built around Avatar? I know I thought it was going to be amazing for me. I made a render about Avatar, and yeah, people watched the render, people liked the screenshots and stuff, but I wouldn't say it exploded to what I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be like a 5 to 10,000 views video. It wasn't. Now, shall I create content, YouTube video or another, to get more clients and customers? The short answer is definitely yes. The long answer is that it really depends on how you do it and how you approach this, because even very small YouTube channels, which exist only for the sole reason to sell a product, they can be very successful on a very low amount of subscribers, because the creator, like myself, wasn't looking for the number of subscribers in order to make money from YouTube, because the ad revenue is really bad. I mean, just to put it into perspective, about 25,000 views a month would equate to roughly 40 to 50 pounds or $60 or whatever, right? So do the math there and work out how many views you'd need to actually make a minimum wage in a Western, in the Commonwealth, basically in the Western country like UK or the US or whatever, right? But what I'm saying is that, and it really depends on your content as well, but what I'm saying is that, a lot of people make YouTube content to try and get clients in, and it definitely helps. I mean, you can have project breakdowns on your YouTube videos. You can have tutorials like myself. These tutorials are as much for you as they are for me. I need to remember how to do things, not just you. If you guys actually believe that if you actually think that my tutorials are exclusively made for you, you're wrong. They're made mainly for me. But that's why, sometimes they might be a bit missing some stuff, because maybe I didn't really think things through completely, because I had some of the information in my head. And sometimes they're very thorough, because I want to fully engorge myself in the process of achieving what I'm trying to achieve. And yeah, so the answer is that, yeah, definitely. And it's not just YouTube. You can try Instagram. You can try other websites where you can get some, you can get recognition. You can try, say Instagram, Twitter. Maybe look at other websites like, ArtStation is a good place to have a portfolio on and also attract customers. The ArtStation marketplace is by far the biggest one out there that I know of, at least. So it's definitely a lot of revenue on it that can be had if you have the right products and enough products. So yeah, I hope that helps. So I'm gonna probably just stop there with this. I've answered 3 questions, I would say, and we're going to do another 3 next time, or maybe more, maybe less. Really depends on how long, how big the answer is around the questions. But I don't want to bore you, and I don't want to let you leave, empty-handed. But if you guys are interested in having a one-on-one talk to me directly, feel free to subscribe to the Patreon tier, which is, I believe, the Praetorium of Ion is the first tier that allows you to have a one-on-one with me for an hour, and then goes up to 2 hours or 3 hours a month if you want to have that conversation. If not, just keep watching these videos and hopefully it will help you. I make videos, I make content, I sell it online, and it's going quite well. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.